Welcome to Lesson 4. In all seriousness, this lesson is very challenging, so please take your time. So this is the handout that I gave you in class. So let's read the problem. It says Lesson 4.1. A coat originally cost $200. A tax of 8% will be added to the original cost. How much will I pay for the coat after the tax is added? Okay, so this problem is actually the same as lesson 3. So let's dive in. Anytime, right, when you see percent, almost all problems, you could use the formula that we talked about in lesson 3, the original plus X%. That was ugly. Hold on. X% of original, and just so we could see that's together, I'm going to put parentheses. Original plus X% of original equals final amount. Right, the final amount. Right, so let's use this formula. So what's the original amount? Well, it even says the originally, right? A quote cost originally $200. So I start with 200. Does something happen? Yes, it does. There's an 8% tax, so I'm going to take 8% of the original, which is $200. And do I know the final amount? No. So I'm just going to put F. Okay, so percent, right, itself, I really don't like this percent sign, so I'm going to change that into, and it's dividing by 100, so I'm going to move the decimal place twice, so I get 0.08 of the $200. That's going to equal my final amount. Okay, so that means I have to calculate this 8% of 200, and let me just do that on the side. So I have 200, I'm going to put 8, knowing that I moved the decimal place twice to make this a whole number. So then I multiply, and I would get 0.016. Like I said, I moved the decimal place twice to make this a whole number, 8. So that means I have to move back 2 decimal places. So that means 8% of 200 is equal to $16. So therefore my final amount is $216. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. This is from the last class, or from the last lesson. But this isn't as interesting because it just gives you the original and I'm just adding the tax, right? You could just do this, just the normal method. You could take it in 2 steps, right? I recommend doing this equation in this way because of problems like this, right? Now it says, I want to create a machine where I can type any original price and it tells me the final price with the tax included. Okay, so before it told me it was 200, right? The cost of the quote was 200. But now I'm going to go and I'm going to type in any amount. It doesn't have to be 200. So actually, what kind of machine is this where I bring, right, an item, like say a coat, and then somebody types in, right, say $200, and then it tells you, right, the final amount with the tax. Hopefully you notice that that is basically a register. Right? When you go to a store and you go pay, right, you go to the register and they type in how much your total is, and then you put it into the register and then it tells you the total with the tax. So let's see what the actual machine is doing. But let's start with what we just did, right? When I had $200, what did I do? I added 8% tax, right? 8% of the 200. And so, when I did that, I got my $216, my final amount. Awesome. Well, if I wanted to, instead of 200, why don't I maybe buy something that was $50? Like I said, it could be any original price, so it could have been 50. But what would I do? I would, again, add 8% tax, or 8% of $50. And I would calculate that, right? Again, I would move the decimal place twice, multiply it with the 50. I won't bore you with the calculation. I would get $54. But let's keep on going. Instead of $50, how about if I said, the the total price came to $66. What would I do? Again, I would add 8% of that $66, and then if I calculate it, right, do it properly, I would get $71.28. Okay, instead of 66, how about if I choose $9? Then I would do still the same thing. I would say, okay, what is 8% of $9? And I would calculate that, and then therefore my final price would be $9.72.